Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Casey Snyder and welcome back to my channel. So I want to start this video off with a disclaimer. As you read in the title, this is about converting a chainsaw to the SpeedCut Nano Oregon bar, chain, and sprocket. Now, I think I'm pretty far from a chainsaw expert. I am more of a novice user of chainsaws, but I don't do any real work on them. I can change the chain, I can change a bar, but changing the sprocket and doing much more than cleaning it and checking my air filter is a little bit out of my ballpark. What I wanted to do is make the video that I wish I could have found a few days ago. I was trying to figure out how to basically remove the clutch and put in the new sprocket in without power tools because I didn't have the right tools. When I didn't have the right tools, I just made everything way worse and harder on myself. In the end, I was able to do it successfully. So I'm making this video so you can avoid some of the pitfalls that I had. Earlier this summer, I was using this T540 for a pretty good sized tree job. I had one big lead that I had to remove. It was a compromised lead in a backyard. When I went to fell the remainder of this lead, it was maybe a 10-inch stem. I just did a bad job. I undercut and then I did the undercut here and the top cut above on a more vertical or upright stem. When I did that, it pulled my saw with me and it bent the bar. Not so bad that it was unusable after that. I was actually able to wiggle it back into place, but I found I wanted to replace that bar. I did end up ordering actually a longer 16-inch notch pro chainsaw bar, but I wanted to see what other options were out there. So I'm gonna hold on to that and have it as a backup for now. I want to convert it to the Oregon SpeedCut Nano chainsaw bar. So I was already familiar with the SpeedCut Nano chainsaw bar and chains because that's what we use at work. I have them on our battery chainsaws. In short, it seems to work better for these battery saws. It increases the lifespan and efficiency of the battery chainsaws. And that's the same for these gas-powered top handle saws as well. You can use them for the Steel 200 series, these Husqvarna T540s, and so on. There's a whole list on Oregon's website of which conversion kit will work for your saw. I originally just went to my local saw shop looking for just the standard Husqvarna Tech Light bar. They didn't have it in stock, so I was pretty convinced that, hey, this is like opportunity knocking, right? They had the conversion kits up on the wall. The conversion kits include the bar, the chain, as well as the sprocket. So it's a little more work than just slapping a new bar on. There's actually a little more work to replace the sprocket. So I went into it a little bit ignorant. I didn't have the right tools needed to do the job at first. And I thought I could make it work just with some of the hand tools I had around the house. So the first step in doing this is just to take the bar cover off and remove the original bar that you have on the saw. I'm gonna flex on you guys a little bit because I have the ratchet scrunch. If you haven't heard of that or seen them, they're really cool. It's a really high quality tool. I just go ahead, loosen things up, loosen the chain, finish removing the cover, and then take the chain and the bar off. I've already kind of pre-cleaned the saw. That's something I highly recommend doing anytime you take the bar and the chain off, is just completely clean it out. It just basically needs a good cleanup whenever you have it open. Now there's gonna be a handful of tools that will help you with doing this project. So don't do what I did and try to pry this thing off and twist it off using an adjustable wrench or pliers. I kind of just ended up scuffing up the clutch, as well as I basically ended up tightening it more because I didn't know this at the time, but clutches are put on righty loosey, lefty tighty. So I was trying to do lefty loosey. I was going counterclockwise to try to get it off, realizing later that I basically just tightened the clutch. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing. So when that didn't work, I went on ye old Amazon. Amazon is responsible for a lot of terrible things, but also a lot of good things, like 2-day shipping on one little tool. So this, if you're not familiar with it, is a clutch removal tool. It's just a generic one. It's not like a Husqvarna branded one or anything like that. It's basically just a kind of a nut top with these two little arms. Your clutch tool may be different depending on the size of saw you have and the brand of saw you have. To get the clutch removal tool to work, you're also going to need a 3/4 inch socket. I also screwed up after this point as well because I tried to just put it on a normal socket wrench and get that to turn. It doesn't work. Basically, I went ahead and put the tool on. Remember, it's righty-loosey. So I went in there trying to turn it, but as you can see, the clutch at a certain point turns over. And you're not gonna get the right speed or torque to get that to loosen up by hand. So you're gonna need an impact drill. I just got a cheap Ryobi one, it works great. You don't need an air-powered one, it's just a cheap battery-powered homeowner brand. However, it doesn't work great if you don't have the right adapter for your socket. I went to the hardware store and I got the right adapter to put the socket on there and on to the impact. This little clutch removal tool cost me about 15, 17 bucks, something like that. And the adapter cost me about $4. So I'm in it about $21. The new Sprocket bar and chain cost me about 65 bucks. So we're pushing into about $90 for my costs overall. And the reason why I'm making this video is that all these little inconveniences I kept running into just were not explained in the video. I watched a video from Oregon about how to do this changeover, and they didn't really explain much as far as what tools you would need and what hiccups you could run into. So that's what I'm doing here. So it just reminded me of the draw the fucking owl meme. If you're not familiar with that, it is a step-by-step guide on how to draw an owl. And step 1 is draw some circles. Step 2, draw the rest of the fucking owl. It's like, how did you get from step 1 to step 2? I was missing that part and going into this project uneducated. Once I finally had the right tools I needed, it was pretty simple, right? You can just put the clutch removal tool right on there, put that where it needs to go. So remember, I'm trying to loosen this clutch off of here. So I'm trying to go to the right direction or the clockwise direction. One thing that was helpful from the videos I've seen is they recommend pushing the stop button down as you're spinning the clutch. I think that's just to prevent startup or potentially damage to the saw because of compression. So I have thumb on the stop and the tool ready on the clutch, and I'm gonna give it a couple spins. And that actually came off really fast. When you hear kind of that nice tone it made, and you can see that the clutch is now loose and spinning off. And that is the clutch for my saw. Easy as that. The sprocket is still on there, so I can just pull the sprocket out, and you can see, nice and easy. So before I put this all back together, I want to do a direct comparison of the sprockets, the chains, and the bars. So I'm hoping this will provide a little bit better insight to the difference between these two. Up top, this is the standard Husqvarna sprocket. It's just built a little bit different. The drive links are further spaced apart. It's just allowing for a little bit different catch on the bottom of the chain to go through that. A little bit wider. So as that's spinning around the bar, inside around the clutch, it's just got more room to grab that different chain style. This one is much deeper, I would say, and less spread further apart. So it's just gonna drive the chain slightly different. Other than that, they're pretty similar in build, just a few slight variants. So next I thought it'd be worth it to compare the chainsaw chains. So the top one here, this is the SpeedCut Nano. Just a different profile. It's a little kind of a lower profile. It seems like slightly less aggressive tooth in terms of it's short and looks like a quick bite versus kind of a taller, long bite. Now, this is my original chain, and don't judge me for this. It looks like shit because I really abused it, but it has much shorter rakers. Some of that by design, some of it I did that. The tooth itself seems slightly more aggressive. Obviously, it's shorter because it was well used. It's a different profile if you were to like face it forward. What I mean by that is that the drive links are and chain is skinnier, so it's just gonna be less of a kerf as it's cutting. That's the primary difference. Like this, the rivets on here are a lower profile, the linkages are skinnier, and so are the chainsaw teeth. It's just basically gonna be a little more efficient because it's cutting less wood at a time than it would a traditional chain. The original chain that was on here was the Oregon VersaCut. So the very last thing that I want to do is show the differences between the profiles of these bars. The differences lie in the nose or the tip. You can see this is a pretty traditional, nice kind of like circular curve. It tapers a little bit here on the end, nice round circle and back out. With the Husqvarna Tech Light Bar, there's really no taper at all. You know, there's taper on the back side where it receives around the sprocket, but no taper up on the front. I actually like that profile and shape. I think it just looks classic. So onto the Oregon SpeedCut Nano. When you lay that on top of the original bar that I had for this Husqvarna saw, slightly longer, so if I line up the holes, it's slightly longer in the back and then almost a hair longer in the front. But what you can see is quite different is the profile at the end. It's a lot steeper taper going to that nose and a much smaller nose shape. And that all has to do again with the speed on which the chain's going around. You know, if you have a tighter, nose sprocket, that's a faster speed it's going to get because he has less time, less length to go around the nose. Now, it's probably not even going to be anywhere near noticeable, but there's difference. You can't really see a difference in thickness of the bars, but by feel, I can, in my eyesight, the rails are thinner on the Oregon chain as it would be the Husqvarna chain. So that's it. They're all minor differences between the sprocket and the chains and the bars, all leading to what is supposed to be more efficient work for your saw. Basically less stress on the machine, more use of the power to actually cut rather than just move chain around a bar. That's the whole idea of doing the SpeedCut Nano conversion. Let's move on to the actual part of where I put it together. And I promise you, if I wasn't talking so much, this video could be done in about 30 seconds. So now that I'm done talking about all this stuff, I can move on to actually doing it. And so you just go ahead and take the sprocket, just make sure it's clean inside. The sprocket goes on the inside against the saw, and just make sure that's set in basically all the way that it can go. Now there's two sides of the clutch. You want the part that actually shows like the Husqvarna logo and some writing to be on the outside. Remember that this is righty loosey, lefty tighty, so you go ahead and just set it onto where it mounts, and you're gonna go in a counterclockwise fashion. So I just got that hand tightened. Go ahead and put your clutch tool back on. You're gonna need your impact driver once more. Now you don't need to go ham on it. It doesn't need to like be freaking like glued on. Definitely don't use anything like a JB Weld or any sort of like thread locker or anything like that. Just basically just get it snug. And so I'm gonna get it a couple pulls. And so basically one could probably do it at that point. Like you can see that the sprocket can still move, and I definitely can't take that off by hand. Maybe I'll just give it one more for good luck. All right, now that's on, because obviously the last thing I want is any of this loosening up in the field. So now that I've got the sprocket on, I can go ahead and put my new bar on, and I just slide that in, on, and against the sprocket. Go ahead and put the chain on. I like to put it against the sprocket first and make sure that it's over the chain catch, and basically just put the top down into the rails of the bar, and then find the nose up top and get it nice and snug in the tip so that everything lines up easy and you don't have too much frustration. When I started doing this, I also cleaned out the inside of the clutch cover, just because, you know, that's nice to have it cleaned as well. It's a new sprocket, so I just want like the chain catch to be working properly as well. On the Husqvarna T540s, you have the adjuster on the clutch cover, and so you just want to find that and match that up properly. And you may need to move the bar around a little bit, but it looks like I found it. I just do a little bit of a hand tighten. When I do the chain tension on any top handled saw, or any chainsaw for that matter, I like to just make sure I've got the bar aligned properly. I tend to hold the tip of the bar upward a little bit so I can feel that the bar and everything is aligned properly. And then I go to do the tension, and that feels about good. I'm just kind of used to hand tightening it. You can always check it with a little bit of a spring tension. I just like a little bit of a pop. It's just by feel. I can't really describe it super well. Give it just a slight more tension, and then go ahead and tighten up that nut. And this ratchet scrunch is so cool, so I don't have to take it off. Give it another little bit of a tension, because again, this is going to be up in a tree. I don't want that nut loosening up during use. So that is about it. I think this conversion kit looks really nice. I really hope a basic or a novice chainsaw person watches this and understands where I'm coming from. and any expert as well. You've been there. I know everyone's been there. When people are self-taught from YouTube videos, a lot of these hangups happen. Overall, I want to say that I think this conversion kit's going to work really nicely. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you like to see more of these videos. I only have one other chainsaw that I might change some stuff on there. There's some work that saw needs because it had a hard time starting this summer, and I have an idea of why, and I have an idea of how to fix it. But this T540 has run super well for me, and so I only expect it to be cutting better, and for fuel to last longer, and for me to feel a little bit less impact because I'm using a more efficient chain and bar on this saw. Thanks again. Have a nice day. Don't do bad stuff or whatever. I don't know how to outro videos. It's been too long.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain.